Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. The sky is painted green, white, green this week as we mark 56 years of our independence from Britain. Nigeria became independent in 1960, and there was great hope in our founding fathers how great the country was going to be. But the road to greatness is never an easy one. Look into the history of the great nations today. They've fought, they've lobbied, argued, voted, sometimes protested to get to where they are. In the end, the people have won, communities are safer, there is better welfare, and governments provide proper infrastructure and an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and for the people to support the government to build a safer and more prosperous society. Nigeria is still on a journey, but as you will soon learn from my first guest today, image is everything. Mr. Sylvester Okere is the Executive Director of Continental African Leadership Council. He spearheaded Continental Africans to galvanize voters in the United States to re-elect U.S. President Barack Obama, and later became the first African immigrant in Maryland to be elected delegate to the National Democratic Convention in 2012, where he served as Maryland's field delegate. He played an active role raising funds for President Obama's campaign in 2012 and played a key role in his re-election. Why is this important? You'll soon find out soon enough when he talks about how Nigeria can become great again. Not like the Republican presidential candidate says it, but in a way only we, the people, can.
Nigerians outside, from what I hear and those that I've been in close contact with, are very happy with the president, though you can't tell me that everyone is happy, especially with the economic situation. But first of all, those of us that live there that are concerned about Nigeria and the image of Nigeria should be happy that the president came in when he came in. And also with the issue of insecurity, which everyone, including mothers and children, were scared, threatened, and so on. We saw improvement in there. You see, nobody's talking about that. Yes, economy is where it is today, but where there is no security, we shouldn't be talking about economy. We shouldn't be talking about going to farm or eating food. So we should give the president credit where he deserves it. At least the country has been okay in terms of Boko Haram threatening here and there. I knew yesterday there was I read about attack or whatever, but it was very rampant in the past. So, and I thank God for that. And also the level of corruption, and people will say, why is he focusing on corruption? But these are things that were eating us down. If you don't live outside Nigeria, you will not know what Nigeria is. And that's the reason why I felt that Nigeria has lacked so much. We waste our time and money running around overseas, but we failed to make use of our own people, because image making is very important. I mean, integrity, reputation is very important. Nigeria, we are zero on reputation, but at least by now, Nigeria has started coming out.
Do you think that even with the present recession, Nigerians outside are confident of what's going on, that the country will get out of that? But more importantly, are they confident enough to invest in their own country at this time?
Thank you. And that's why public relation is important, image making, because we have to give people the confidence. And it is we Nigerians are going to do it. It's not an outsider. We are the ones to encourage investors to come to Nigeria and invest. And if they are not seeing it in you, how do they see it in us? Is how we talk about where we come from. You have to be proud of yourself as a Nigerian. Most of the time, I feel sad that people around the world, Nigerians are not only in America, there are those who say some negative stuff about Nigeria. And then what do you expect a non-Nigerian to talk about Nigeria? So when we start speaking good about our country, remember, when you have a child, you say that child is a big head, coconut head, no good child. It can be good. But when you start calling the child a good name, you see other people start watching your child and admiring your child. And I think that's what we should be doing. But here, nobody is giving people hope. And that's the reason why everyone is crying. The economic recession is not as deadly, as worse as it is. President Obama inherited that in 2012. Many countries have gone through economic recession. It depends on how you handle it and the type of propaganda and messages that people are getting. When people are already hungry and you're giving them fear, then they see everything as devil and death. But when they are hungry and you're letting them know there is hope, and the president is working and there is solidarity. President Obama had what he called a bottom-up economy. That means he had to start from small businesses, encouraging people from the ground, farmers and youths and so on, to invest in them, and not just on those who have already made their millions and trillions and still grabbing from people who are even struggling to eat. So I think if people are honest and they love the future of Nigeria, they should be happy that at least the foundation is getting right now.
And this is making the foundation, the fact that for the first time we have to suffer through all of this before it becomes better.
If you're in a market that you come from a farm or a product or a commodity where people say, hey, don't buy that, it's contaminated. Nobody's going to buy it. Nigeria used to be a contaminated nation. That when you go, people look at us that way. And I've been in business. I run a private security company. My company grew very well. I had a lot of employees, but the point is that there are certain things you want to do, you can't do it, but you in yourself know why you cannot do that because of the perception. Because you look around you, someone away from another country within Africa, successful, do it in another way. I'm not just saying racism is everywhere. That's what we call tribalism here, though. So, but Nigeria being what it is, with all the knowledge, all the experts we have, what is dragging us down is that image. The image ate us so much, especially the corruption. And now that we are facing it and the whole world is seeing that we have a leader, because someone had to be at the front. Not at the, you don't lead from behind. And that's why what the president is doing is leading from the front, using himself as an example, then others will follow. I'm not saying he's going to clean corruption completely. It's not going to be that easy.
You've been outside the country for about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware of Nigeria's foreign policy?
I do. Well, do we have any? That's the question. What is Nigeria foreign policy? Other than running around everything that is foreign is what we embrace. We need to start thinking about our own domestic policy. When we build ourselves, then we're not thinking about foreign policy. What is our foreign policy? Other than everything in China, we're running to China. India, Malaysia, every country in the world. But Nigeria, you see, the Bible, there's a scripture that I love so much, which is Psalm 49, verse 20. It says, a man that is in honor and understandeth not is like a beast. We are in honor. We are a great country. We have a lot, but we don't appreciate it. We don't appreciate ourselves. We don't even appreciate our leaders. We will even jump overseas and get something that will break tomorrow, but we have it at home. We cannot. So where is Nigerian foreign policy?
We do have a foreign policy,
okay,
and it is Africa-centered. According to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, that's what it is. It is Africa-centered. But I want to ask, how many times have you visited the Nigerian embassy in New York?
I was just there last week. They know me. Every one of them know me.
So give us an idea of what it's like going into the embassy and then applying for a visa, and then what sort of reception you receive and how fast the services are.
Well, as far as I know, Nigerian embassy and consulate DC New York, I give them hands up. They are excellent people. They are really humane people. They know their job. Yeah, Washington, New York, and Atlanta. Like I said, I represent the African community. So in as much as I'm Nigeria, I also know much about my community. So every one of them know me. They are doing an excellent job. I can call at least 10 names from the DC office, and I can call names those in New York. They know me and I know them. They are doing a terrific job.
Mm-hmm. You're very involved in these elections in the United States. But I will not mention the camp that you belong to.
By the grace of God.
I will not mention the camp that you belong to, but very soon America will be deciding on a new president. What sort of president does America need now?
First, we need a president that will be leader for all. That was why when President Buhari was elected, when he was sworn in, he said something. He said, I am for everybody, I'm for nobody. So we want a leader that will continue with the legacy of President Obama, and that is embracing everyone. Frankly speaking, without President Obama, I don't think I would find myself at the White House. It was my involvement leading the Maryland Democratic Party, Continental African, that got me into championing the Continental African for Obama, which now got me into being the African liaison for the National Democratic Party. Why? Because of President Obama's legacy and vision of inclusiveness. And that's why I love, I cry for this country. We need to stay together. We need to be very inclusive. We need to be very diverse. We need to recognize men and women, young and old. Everyone has a talent, but we cannot just claim that. And the problem is that we have too many certificates without knowledge. That's one thing Nigerians crave for. We get a lot of certificates, but there's no knowledge. That's why you see things crumble. It's not about President Goodluck. It's not about PDP or APC. It's about we individuals. That's the change. Because PDP party come and go, president come and go. But we are the ones that decide who stays in the office. But because we are also corrupt and we are looking after ourselves, we don't care about one another. That's why things are happening. Politicians are using us to play game. So we have to rise up, know what we want, and then be able to define ourselves for the interest of our community, staying together. So unity is important.
President Muhammadu Buhari, in his speech on Independence Day, says, Abroad, Nigeria's standing has changed beyond belief in the last 18 months. We're no longer a pariah state. Wherever I go, I've been received with UN-accustomed hospitality. Investors from all over the world are falling over themselves to come and do business in Nigeria. This government intends to make business environments more friendly because we cannot develop ourselves alone. All countries, no matter how advanced, welcome foreign investments to their country. This is the essence of globalization, and no country in the 21st century can be an island. If you're like me, you love reviewing things, and my next guest is as passionate about Nigeria's foreign policy because he's been an insider before. Ambassador Joe Keshi was once Consul General of the Nigerian mission in the United States. He was also Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with over 30 years of experience in diplomatic issues. Today, he's found in the corporate world, but that has not stopped him from visiting his first love time and again. In this interview I had with him a while back, he reviews where we are in foreign policy, discusses the possibility of a change under this administration.
I think we've not done too badly. What one can say is that you see some form of continuity from what the previous administrations have done, not just to maintain Africa as a centerpiece of our foreign policy, but also in our relationship with the outside world. Right now, I think that the emphasis on economic diplomacy, and to some extent, also we are reaching out to some like the United States on issues of security, and China on the issues of economic development. You are aware we're trying to borrow a substantial amount of development fund from the Chinese. So we kind of steady on that, but I would have loved to see a well-articulated policy on economic diplomacy that states out very clearly not just the desire to see investors coming to the country, but also to support indigenous Nigerian companies that are expanding into the continent, because that's the only way we can build this much desired African cooperation and economic integration.
It sounds like you're saying economic diplomacy is a reflection of, our own domestic policy, because that's where we're at right now.
Absolutely. We're very fond of repeating this all the time, that foreign policy is an extension of domestic policy. And if you face the kind of challenges that we are facing today, you really cannot drive a strong foreign policy, but you're occasionally very cautious. Number one, you do not have the resources. Number two, you have your own domestic challenges, which prevents you from being very assertive and, you don't go into unnecessary adventure. But again, I make the point that given who we are, given the size of this country and our position in the continent, we cannot be occasionally assertive and confidently help the continent to drive certain issues. And for me, as I look at what we are trying to do and the expansion of some members of the private sector, we need to create a structure that supports this entry into Africa. Because at the end of the day, even if we become industrialized, we'll find out that our goods will go more easily into the region than to the rest of the world. So again, it goes back to that famous concentric circle, that first let's take care of the neighboring countries, West Africa to start with, and then we can go to the rest of Africa and to the world. But
can we continue that? Can we continue to make Africa the centerpiece of our foreign policy?
Number one, we are in Africa. Number two, we cannot get ourselves unnecessarily involved in the affairs of the world when we have not resolved our own problems and internal contradictions in the continent. There are still so many issues. One of the issues I feel very strongly about today is this issue of migration, particularly because a number of Nigerians are involved. They are not only dying, they are also giving bad publicity to the country. Among those who have been rescued, a few Nigerians, and when you listen to the interview, they create a picture that is not true of the country.